Take that gorgeous ball right into the belly. We'll get some abdominal massage too in through the viscera. And then take your alpha ball right above the kneecap. And then kickstand your left leg. And let's just use a little stripping action in the bottom third to half of the right quad. Roll the foot in, roll the foot out, just a little exploring. Pausing when you get to a tender spot and just letting the body be heavy. As you find that tender spot, even let your head rest. Take a few deep breaths. Just feeling your belly, your thigh, everything melts into the floor. And then start to bend and straighten your right knee just a little bit. Pinning and stretching, just pausing when you bump up against that first point of resistance, that speed bump. And as you repeat, you'll find how those myofascial tissues start to glide and slide better on top of one another, allowing for more functional range. Move freely through that range. Do a little cross friction work. So roll the knee in, roll the knee out. So the ankle moves kind of like a pendulum as you scrub across in the opposite direction of muscle pull. Pausing if it feels right, maybe holding the spot for a couple breaths if you find a point of tenderness until it subsides. And then let's slide the ball up more towards the middle when you're ready. No rush, and we'll begin again. Exploring the middle portion of the quad. Turning the toes out and in to explore. Pausing in the just right spot. Noticing if when you find a spot of tenderness, if you tighten the shoulders or tighten the jaw. And then let your body become more supported so that you can soften into it a little bit more as you begin to bend and straighten the knee. And the knee could be rotated in or out as you do this, depending upon where the point of sensation is. And when it feels right, you can do a little cross fiber massage going perpendicular to the line of pull, like strumming a guitar. And you can always pause in stillness too if the movement causes you to tighten so that you can feel the tissues melt. Taking as much time as you need, and then we'll find one more spot in the top part of the quad. In the top third or so of the quad now, beneath the crease of the hip for the moment. As the quad broadens towards the top, you may get a little bit more of a side-to-side action as you just explore that whole top part of the thigh, and then rest into a point of tenderness. For me, it's a little bit more lateral, so I turned just a little bit so that I let that spot of tenderness just rest right over the ball. So it's right on top, and gravity just brings me straight down into the ball. And with each breath, the sensation begins to soften. As you welcome the sensation, notice that if you try to make it go away, you start to get resistance against it. So just let the body soften. And you can play with those other movements. If it feels right to move, you can do a little pin and stretch or cross fiber release, rotating the hip. Taking about 3 more breaths wherever you are. And then return up to your forearms. Take your left foot to meet the right. And then take your alpha ball right inside the bowl of the pelvis now. So find that bony landmark on the front of the hip if you were to put your hands on your hip. And then just roll over the ball so the ball comes right into the front wall of your pelvis. And then you might turn the toes under, just get an up and down action just for a moment to find that just right spot. Letting the alpha ball now with time and gravity just melt in. And notice what happens in the rest of the body if there's any guarding, bracing, contraction that occurs. Just notice it and allow yourself to soften back into the support, feeling the external support of the floor and the internal support of the breath. Maybe you check the glutes, the shoulders, the jaw, the belly. How can you let more? Waiting for signs of soft tissue release, change in breath, so respiration or a sighing. There could be a flushing sensation through the front of the hip, warmth, softening or sinking, maybe even a little self-correction, like a little jolt through the body as you realign. And now we'll activate the back body. So we'll engage the glutes here in order to maintain the openness through the front of the hip. So curl the right toes under. You're actually going to contract the quad now. Squeeze the butt. Now point the toes so that you get the calf engaged, hamstring engaged, glute engaged on the right side, holding the leg up for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then release. Using neuromuscular principles to engage the opposite side of the body to maintain that release we just did. Squeeze, turn the toes under, squeeze the thigh, squeeze the behind, gentle activation of the belly, and then point the toes, lift the leg from the glute and from the hip a 1/2 inch more. Keep the belly slightly engaged so the back doesn't arch. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then release. Maybe the ball needs to reposition the tiniest bit as the front of the hip gives way, and we'll do it one more time together. Curl the right toes under, push through your heel, engage the right glute, feel the lower belly activate to stabilize, then point your toes, lift from the butt, back stays long, hold, lift, lift, lift just a little bit more, feel the whole back of the leg engage, and then releasing. Remove all of the props and rest on your belly for just a minute. And just feel the difference in the right and left thigh, right and left hip. It probably feels like the right leg's like a whole inch, maybe even more longer. And when you're ready, when you feel like the body has regained balance and you can begin again after respiration has returned to normal, after you return to the support and sensation of the body on the earth, take the ball over to the left side, gorgeous ball back in your belly. Come right above the knee so that we start by exploring the bottom third of the quad on the left. And you're going to use your elbows and the right knee just to strip up and down, exploring, kind of like when a massage therapist just starts to explore. We're spreading the oil, searching for areas of density. So take that same approach with yourself until you arrive on that first spot that piques your interest. And then let the body find support. Let the head be heavy. Just feel the weight of the body meet that. Take a couple breaths, welcoming the sensation. And then when you feel ready, begin to explore using the same methods of bending and straightening the knee. That first time, you usually have to go really slowly. Just find that first barrier to bending without rushing through it. And with each repetition of bend, you'll notice that a little bit more motion comes back. And then when you're able to glide through that motion smoothly, add that rotational component going opposite in direction of the pull of the muscle fibers. And as you're ready, no rush. When it feels right, find the next spot. You can just roll yourself down or move the ball up. Come towards the middle third of the quad. First exploring and when you find a spot that piques some curiosity, land in stillness. Welcome the sensation and ask the body to guide you, bending and straightening, rotating, or just pausing in stillness. Noticing that this side might feel really different than the other. And then find one more spot, moving upward, top third of the thigh now. Start and explore. Just as with this, even with this exploring, it's going to increase awareness, proprioception, which will decrease pain as well. The more awareness you have, the less pain the body feels. So even just that stripping and exploring will be helpful. Stay in movement or find stillness. And as you arrive, welcome the sensation, giving yourself external support from the earth and the Courgeous Ball, as well as internal support. Choosing to rest in stillness, providing deep pressure, or bending and straightening, going across the fibers, responding to the messenger of sensation to move, listening to the body, meeting yourself right where you are as we come in towards this most dense, thickest fascia in the body, in this place between the pelvis and the knee. Taking as much time as you need here. And when you feel the signs of soft tissue letting go, allow the Courgeous Ball to come out. Bring the Alpha Ball just inside the hip bone and the front of the pelvis. So right medial, just medial to the ASIS, that front bony hip point. And maybe you do a little gentle rocking side to side or curl the toes under. Do a little scrub up and down so that you land on that just right spot. Sensational but sustainable in the front of your pelvis. Let time and gravity do the work. So All you have to do is get out of your own way by relaxing into the sensations. Notice if there's any internal struggle. Notice if you're tightening the glute, shoulders, jaw, eyes, hands. Just allow yourself to melt into the support of the ball and the earth. And as you welcome that sensation, that point of contact, the body will instinctually or spontaneously start to give way. And then, if necessary, reposition the ball just inside that bony hip point. And now we'll engage the back line of the body by curling the toes under, squeezing your left glute, pressing through the heel, and then pointing the toe. Push through the big toe, lift the leg, just engaging glute, hamstring, and calf. Low belly is engaged to stabilize the spine. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then release. Do that 2 more times. Curl the toes under, push through the heel. Engage the left glute. And then point the left toes, lifting the leg up maybe a ½ inch more. Pause and squeeze for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. One more time, reposition the ball if necessary. Engage the leg, point the toes, lift and hold. Lift a tiny more, hold, lift, squeeze for 3, 2, 1, hands down. Remove all of the props, lie flat on your belly. Let your head turn to the side. Feel the spaciousness and the width of the front of the pelvis, the width through the front of the thighs. Allow the whole front body to be supported. Allowing the wave of sensation or the resonance to dissolve, returning to stillness. And then bring your hands underneath your shoulders, press up to hands and knees, move forward slightly, and just so that it's nearby, set up your bolster behind you. Kneeling right here. First, we're going to go forward before we go backwards. So from hands and knees, take the right leg up towards the front right corner, and then curl the toes under for a moment so that you press out through your back heel. And then bring your back knee down. And now take the top of your foot to the floor, and then now push through the top of your foot. feel a tuck of the tail, feel the left pelvis pull forward so that you get a nice stretch through the front of the pelvis, top of the thigh, leg is active slightly so that there's this slight activation while there's this elongation. We'll pause here, holding. Pushing the floor away with the right foot and both hands, dropping the tailbone as much as possible. Holding for 3 more breaths. And then let the knee come down. Sit your hips back, first kind of through a half split, and then back towards your heel. Let your hips fall to the right of your foot. Knees stay together in this version, and then we'll move backward onto the bolster. So come really slowly as you're doing this. First pausing on your hands, then maybe the elbows, and then allowing yourself to come back onto support or towards the floor, whatever serves you. Stopping and acknowledging all of those edges of sensation, all of those little pauses in the path. Welcoming sensation so that as you come to your final resting pose, you didn't skip anything. If you ignored or missed anything, the body is going to start to feel a ramping up of sensation and this sense of irritability and want to come out. Versus if you acknowledge and pause, letting each of those spots subside as you go, the body will just allow you slowly to make your way further and further back. And there might even be a time when the bolster comes out. And then we'll stay a while. Welcoming a position that encourages a sensational but sustainable pose. Using props, using breath, using support to allow the body to let go of work and move into the dense, fibrous connective tissues that respond to long, sustained, gentle pressure. And as you observe, you'll notice the sensation, intensity, location, posture will all change. Asking yourself how you can let go into this posture to the fullest expression. For 3 more breaths. And letting the body's sensation guide you. And then when it's time to return up, engaging the chin towards the throat, pulling the ribs towards the abdomen, engaging the whole front body, pressing through the arms, giving you a little support. And then swinging the legs behind you, pausing just for a moment in child's pose. Reconnecting to a position of support and security. Riding the wave of sensation, feeling the benefits of the practice. Integrating and beginning again without rushing. When you're ready, moving slowly, come up towards hands and knees, bringing the left leg forward now, curling the right toes under for a minute, pushing back, then dropping the knee, bringing the top of your foot to the floor, press through the top of the foot so that you pull the right hip forward and then down, letting the tailbone be heavy, letting the front of the right hip open. There's a little activation through the top of the foot. And we'll pause and breathe. Push the floor away with both arms and both feet, feeling the front foot and the back foot move in opposite directions as you pull the right hip towards the right hand. Lengthening out the myofascial structures along the whole right side. And then return the right knee towards the earth. Shift the hips back first towards a half split. And then walk your hands back so that you can slide your hip towards your heels. And then hips move off to the left now. Oops. Making space on your mat so that you can move backwards. Bolster can come behind you if that felt good. Even if you came all the way to the floor, it might be good to pause with some support so that the body feels supported. And by meeting that edge with support along the way, whether it's the elbows, whether it's the bolsters, you can let go of any bracing or guarding. And through that sense of security and support, the body will allow a further releasing. If you move quickly or forcefully, the reaction of the tissues, both intrinsically in the tissue and in the nervous system, is to tighten. So move slowly and deliberately, pausing and meeting each sensation during the way, and noticing how the body starts to give way. And keep exploring that sensational but sustainable edge, finding stillness and feeling how the posture evolves. Listening and leaning into the sensations of the body. Pausing for 3 to 5 more breaths. Asking yourself, what can I do to be more at ease? And when the time's right for you to come out, tuck the chin, engage the abdominals, press through the elbows and the forearms, coming back up slowly to the hands. Now let the legs come out in front of you. Maybe rocking the hips or shaking the legs, allowing the sensations to move through the body. You may even want to hug the knees to the chest, bringing your forehead towards your knees if that feels right. Feeling this sitting seed type pose now. Coming back to midline. And then make your way all the way down onto your back, rolling down slowly, seeing if you can engage the abdominals after that extension activity, letting each segment come towards the floor, and then pull the knees in and just reset the back, the pelvis, and the hips by taking a moment in Happy Baby, pulling the hips back into the hip joints, feeling how going the opposite direction may have made this motion more accessible.
pressing the entire spine into the floor, pelvis, low back, mid back, even the shoulder blades, gently tucking the chin, elongating from the crown of the head. Feel how the breath fills the back as it enters the body. Body filling against the earth. And then body sinking even a little more into the floor as the breath flows out. Take 3 more breaths. Breath filling into where the floor and body meet. Last breath. And then bring the knees into the chest. Maybe bring the legs up towards the sky. You may even shake them out a little bit. Let gravity and then the movement in the feet and ankles, the muscle pump in the calves, and gravity help everything we loosened up return back to the heart. And then let the whole body rest on the floor, arriving in a final resting pose. Body integrating the work. Shifting into a state where we can receive the benefits. Nothing to do, nothing to change, simply receiving everything from the work that's already been done. Allowing our bodies to function optimally, to move freely, breathe deeply, so that we can go from our mats back to the world to do our work. As you're ready, turn towards your side, press yourself up, and we'll finish in sitting.